Thanks, Zaid. Thanks, Creative Cape Town and the design in Indaba and everyone here. Cape Town, the capital of cool. First point I just wanted to make is that creativity, to quote Lester Turo, is the fuel of the 21st century. Often when we talk about the creative industries and how important of them, we in fact see the creative industries as a sector. And we've got tourism, and we've got manufacturing, and we've got all of this, and then we've got the creative industries. But I think there's this growing recognition that, in fact, creativity is not just another sector, but in fact, design, innovation, creativity are fundamental to succeeding in everything, whether you're selling food or whether you are designing motor cars. It's the critical difference. And as a recent article in the Harvard Business Review said, the MFA, the Master of Fine Arts, is in fact the new MBA. It's not so much the business skills anymore, it's the creative skills that are important. And it is therefore not surprising that one of the really in things at the moment, if you're in city management around the world, is how do we make our city more creative, and because that's necessary to be competitive. And more, it's also about how do we become a creativity magnet? How do we attract and build the creative people, the creative workers, the creative firms in our city, because long-term success is in fact all about that. Now, I was lucky a year or two ago to run an exercise to develop a regional development strategy for Cape Town that eventually founded on the rocks of competition between the city and the province. And I think it was just one big insight that came out of that for me, which is maybe first of all summarized in this Heath Nash, not one of the best Heath Nash pieces, but I put it up here. It's beautiful here. Maybe there is our contradiction as Cape Town. We've got this fantastic destination, but maybe it just breeds this sense of complacency. And in many ways, if we are saying, which was a conclusion of that, that actually the strategy for Cape Town is creativity and innovation and design, then in a way, almost that fundamental metric, the fundamental measure of how are we being successful is this one. How many creative jobs have we created in Cape Town? More important maybe than any other question, because if we increase the number of new creative jobs in the city, in fact, a whole lot of extra downstream jobs, in fact, get created. And I really think that this is the place where we need to focus the job creation effort. Maybe a big problem we have in this city is just that graphic. I've always really loved this particular picture, which is of District 6. And, 15 years after democracy, District 6 still remains undeveloped. And in a way, the best and the worst of Cape Town is there. In Joburg in 1970, in the heart of apartheid, developers would have just gone and developed it. In Cape Town, people said, no, we're not going to develop it because it was a horrible thing that was done. So it remains that. But now we get just trapped in all the villages of Cape Town. And in a way, that's just why I put the Cape Towns up. Cape Town as a city of villages rather than really a city. And we're all in our little silos of race, of class, of sectoral disciplines. So the architects are here, and the musicians are there, and the designers are there, and we can break into the subgroups. And in a way, I think the real key for us is going to be how do we start to get much more energy and fusion. If there's one story I can think of as I was thinking about this that relates to design, it was the story of the metal worker, the old metal worker, ancient designers, and the young apprentice metal worker came up to him and said, I've got the bellows, and I've got the coal, and I've got my iron ore, and I've got the forge, and I've got the hammer, but nothing is happening. And the old iron worker looked at him and said, you've got everything you need except the spark. And in a funny way, I mean, if you just look at Cape Town, we've got so many of the things that we need. We've got some fantastic things that individuals have somehow managed to drive and create, from the design in Indaba to the Cape Town Jazz Festival to Creative Cape Town. We've got lots of fantastically creative people, but for whatever reason, maybe I suspect we just haven't quite got the critical mass together, and maybe it's our natural, the villagers approach. Maybe we just too polite as Cape Town. Maybe that sort of brashness and the deal making that you might get in a Joburg, we don't quite have. But it does seem to me there's a little bit of mindset change that we need if we are really to achieve our potential. The original title of this slide was Why Curitiba Smells. Curitiba, if you don't know, for much of the 80s and 90s was seen as the place in the world that had got the green agenda and the urban innovation right. And thousands of people from around the world went to visit Curitiba, including many delegations from Cape Town. I was on one of those. And the interesting thing about Curitiba, the world's green city, of course, is that you arrive there and it stinks. And it stinks because they don't have a working sanitation system, so the sewage goes through these open pits. I mean, sanitation literally there is the pits. And yet, notwithstanding the fact that there were many elements of that whole system that weren't functional or working, they, because they were doing some fantastic things, managed to predict themselves as the world leader. And the whole world went to Curitiba, and there's even a little bit of design. These were the famous bus shelters of Curitiba, and 5 years later you saw exactly the same bus shelters in New York. And again, the point is just you can be a second-rate, parochial, distant Brazilian city with just 1 million people, and yet, despite all of that, and you can have a sanitation system that doesn't work, and yet, in fact, you can be the world's green city. And I don't think there's any reason why we, in fact, in Cape Town, if we have the right attitude and we change the mindset, can't be the world's capital of cool. And just to begin to wrap up, I just thought I would, to contribute to the discussion of what we need to do to spark creativity in Cape Town to another level, a few ideas for what we might do. First one. Demolish the Home Affairs building. And in a way, for me, it's just iconic of how unbelievably badly we treat the creatives and the entrepreneurs from the rest of the continent who want to do something in Cape Town. I've got 1 minute, Zaid. Let 1 million dustbins bloom. There were 5 design companies that did this to Cape Town dustbins. Why don't we get every household's dustbin to be done like this? It's really a point of building the creative skills and confidence right through the schools and the communities. Why don't we just do something incredibly different with District 6, make it as our creative quarter, just cut through all the intractable old ways of thinking, because a creative city needs the creative, affordable buildings, the spaces, the housing, and so on. Creative Cape Town Cubed. Creative Cape Town is a magnificent initiative, but a lot of the best practice will also tell you while you need your creative Cape Town around your central city, you need the same kind of initiatives right across your city in the neighborhoods, and you really need something that's making you the global connections. And then just another off-the-wall kind of idea. We've got Kirstenbosch. We've got biomimicry. To be very technical, that's this big new kind of design phenomena around the world. Why don't we become a global biomimicry center as a way of just bringing together our unique biodiversity, heritage, and so on. And it's about big thinking investments in cutting edge and green design and creative R&D. That's just a few thoughts that I had as I was sitting to prepare it. I'm sure there's 150 more, and maybe that's a list that we should try and pull together, and then we take the 10 best and try and make them happen. Thanks very much.